Chapter 189. 2. We got Hachi on the intro page here, bringing his ring to a goldfish princess who lost it somehow. Wonderful. Sanji versus number 2. What I assume is the grand finale here. Sanji is literally kicking the crap out of Mr. 2. This is quite the fight here, and you should go read it yourself. And if it's been a while since you read this, this is kind of worth revisiting, I think. Mr. 2 makes like kind of one final desperate vengeance swan bombardier dive attack. Misses. I think he misses and goes right into the wall. That's pretty much the way I'm reading this. He's kind of, Mr. 2's on the ground, can't move anymore, conceding defeat, and expecting Sanji to murder him. Instead, Sanji says it was a good fight and offers his hand. Mr. 2 even cries a little bit over the grudging respect between enemies. Sanji does then finish him off anyway. And walks away, and the winner is Sanji. Spoils of victory, a dubious friendship. I would say that Mr. 2's dead, but we all know that that's not possible. The spoils of victory can't be a dubious friendship, I don't think, if the other party has expired. So we'll see. Mr. 2 is an interesting character. Back at the palace, I guess they're about ready to blow the palace up. Vivi has a chance to talk and apologize for leaving the way she did. In the midst of this, Crocodile shows up. And he doesn't want her to destroy the palace because he wants to be up high in the palace looking down on vermin, as he says. So we have our conflict there. Now we move on to the other fight that we haven't seen yet, which is Mr. 1 and Miss Doublefinger versus Zolo and Nami. Zolo's mostly preoccupied at the moment with making sure Nami's safe. Mr. 1 and Miss Doublefinger sort of approach, and they're after Nami, and Zolo's trying to protect her, and that's the end of the chapter. Chapter 190, Climate Baton. Hachi walking on the seafloor. Apparently, he was given a golden trident in gratitude for returning the ring. Nami can't run anymore, so she decides she's going to have to stand her ground and fight, but she runs a little bit more anyway. As they're about to get her, Zolo intervenes, and this crazy column like vertically slashes, which reveals Mr. 1's power, which is basically that he's a human sword thanks to the dice fruit. And he's definitely interested in Zolo, the swordsman, who took down 100 men at Whiskey Peak. Oh, so long ago now. Oh yeah, they also remember back that a few years ago, he was offered to join the Baroque Works. He ended up killing one of the Baroque Works agents, I guess. Yeah, Mr. 7. As he explains it, though, they rejected his conditions, and he told them at the time, I'd join if I could be the boss. So unless they have a new offer for him, and he doesn't want to be the boss anymore, they're going to have to fight. He makes fun of the Baroque Works agents in general for just being mindless puppets who are being sold a fantasy world, which is pretty true in this case. Anyway, so we have Zolo and Mr. 1 fighting, and Miss Doublefinger decides to stay out of it and go after Nami, basically. So now this fight has separated into two. We get a flashback with Nami about this weapon that she had Usopp build her. I'm not so sure that was the best choice in terms of who should be building a weapon for you, but we'll find out. But Usopp seems super confident he can do this. Anyway, we did see this earlier. We just haven't seen it in action yet. And that's the Climate Baton, I think is what it's called. She decides to stand her ground, but meanwhile gets immediately stabbed by Miss Doublefinger, who is now revealing her power, which happens to be she's a human spike, and she ate the spike fruit and can produce spikes from any part of her body. Nami then pulls out her brand new weapon, the climate baton, and tries the first function that it has, and it just spouts some pigeons. And she's frustrated at Usopp. Then she tries another version of it that's supposed to be a rifle, Cloudy Tempo or something, and then it just shoots out some flowers. Miss Doublefinger actually feels bad for her here, and that's the end of the chapter. So perhaps this weapon's a bit of a joke. Chapter 191. She Who Controls the Weather. That's a reference to the climate baton. Hachi encounters a sea boar being hunted by a sea monster. Miss Doublefinger produces something or technique called double stinger. Double stinger. Finger stinger. Wow. All right. And Nami dodges, but that would have been deadly had she not. Nami tries another function of the climate baton called Thunder Tempo, and it just shoots out like one of those boxing gloves on like a spring-loaded boxing glove, basically. So that doesn't work out very well, and Miss Doublefinger continues her assault. Finger stinger. Miss Doublefinger is able to stand upside down by pushing spikes through, like, out her feet into whatever she's standing on, which is pretty cool. Then she turns into a spike ball, hedgehog stinger, and comes crashing down on Nami. Nami barely dodges the fall, and then it chases her, and, well, she's able to escape it, barely. And Miss Doublefinger realizes that maybe Nami's not quite as much of an idiot as she seems like because of that weapon. So Nami's trying to check the manual. My main criticism is, if you're going to have a weapon with a manual, I would hope you would have read this manual before trying to use the weapon instead of during. But that's just a thought. Anyway, she realizes the first side is just the party tricks that it can do, and the second side is combat mode, and she's been using the party tricks side, which is pretty obvious, right? On the reverse side, she's got a few things to try. She comes at this much more seriously, and she blows a heat ball. I guess shaking or blowing into the batons will release air bubbles. She blows a heat ball, which just kind of warms Miss Doublefinger up. She blows a cool ball, and she blows a thunder ball, and none of them do very much on their own. And this is another sort of party feature, apparently, which is just frustrating Nami now. Frantically searching the instructions for something she can use. Gets stabbed through the leg. Miss Doublefinger's about to end it, but Nami successfully uses the wind thing to block the attack, and then she realizes that she can use the balls or the balls maybe together, and she also realizes that there's some kind of final attack in the instructions that can only be used once. But she also realizes how to use the effects of the baton to create a mirage, and she apparently gets stabbed and certainly killed the way she gets stabbed, but it was just a mirage. She's able to use that to her advantage effectively. She's finally understanding this climate baton, and that's the end of the chapter. This got drawn out a little bit. Okay, chapter 192, tornado warning. Hachi saves the sea boar from the sea monster. Alabasta. We've got Sanji and Usopp and Chopper, and Eyelashes shows up wherever Eyelashes has been. They decide to go to the palace to try to help Vivi. Back at the palace, or approaching the palace, people recognize Crocodile's here. Vivi's in danger. The army's trying to get to the palace to help with Crocodile, but it's being stopped. Back in the palace, Crocodile starts explaining himself a little bit, as the king pinned to the wall here. Basically, the main thing we find out here is that Crocodile is really doing this because he wants to know where something called the Pluton is, which the king is completely shocked to hear that he's even aware of what that is, and I don't know what that is. But that he did hint that there was a reason behind all of this, and this is apparently the reason. He also claims that Luffy's dead, which Vivi's not, upset by, but doesn't quite believe. Nami and Miss Doublefinger, they're still fighting. Nami's still somewhat at a disadvantage here. But by the end of this moment, we'll call it moment, Miss Doublefinger is about to pull something off, but Nami figures out how to combine the different elements of the rod she does eventually, but not before she gets hurt, not before she almost loses, not before all this stuff happens, which I don't completely follow. But the long story short is she figures out how to electrocute the crap out of Miss Doublefinger by the end of this, by combining the different elements of this baton. And by the end of this, it feels like Nami's finally really figured it out and is about to potentially win. And that's the end of the chapter, and that's the end of this video for now. So the next one's going to be here. Like and subscribe. Let's see what happens next. Getting to the end of the arc a little bit, but not quite, but getting to it. See you there.